Hi there. Welcome to Power Golf, Power Fitness. This is my first post. My name is Bill Ebersol. I am a golf instructor, a world long drive competitor, and also a personal trainer. And I started this channel to, help promote myself as an instructor and help people who can find this channel to be able to hit the ball further, golf wise. And also, there's going to be some fitness tips in here as well. So, let's get started. My first review here is going to be of Connor Sterritt. Connor is a world long drive competitor. He's ranked in the top 10 of the world. In 2025, he won the Most Improved Award, meaning he gained the most places in the world rankings. So I'm thinking he was ranked in the 60s. I might be wrong about that, but by the end of the year, he was in the top 10. Congratulations for that, Connor. This video we have was located in the One Stop Power Shop in Newton Grove, North Carolina, which is Bobby Peterson's facility out there. I call it the Long Drive Palace. Bobby Peterson is the coach of the One Stop Power Shop team. This team is the premier team in long drive. They've won within the last 5 to 10 years, I would say maybe close to a dozen world titles amongst the men and women. And I don't know if that really adds up, but they've won more than half over the last 10 years. I know that. They've also probably won, close to 100 tour events amongst all their team members. So, by far they're the top team in long drive. And if you want to become a better long driver, or if you just want to be able to hit the ball further and swing the club faster, if you have the opportunity to go out there and work with Bobby, I would suggest you do it. He's a genius in this aspect. And so let's move on here. His name is Connor Sterritt. He normally swings the club over 150 miles an hour, and when he hits it well, his ball speed's over 220 miles an hour. Let's compare that to a PGA Tour player. PGA Tour players' average club head speed is about 115, and average ball speed is about 171, 172. So we're saying 150 compared to 115, and 220 compared to 171. So over 50 miles an hour more of ball speed and about 25 to 30 miles an hour more in club head speed. So, Connor is a stud. He won the Most Improved Award in 2025 on the World Long Drive Tour. His world ranking, I think, went from the 60s into the top 10. I could be wrong about that. I know he made the top 10. Where his starting point was, I'm not too sure. But what we're using here is a smart to move 3D force plates. Bobby was nice enough to let me bring these out to North Carolina and get some readings on some guys out there. So you're going to be seeing future posts of that as well from the One Stop Power Shop. And I also, World Long Drive, let me bring these force plates to the World Championship. And hopefully in 2026, I'll be able to bring these force plates to tour events and the World Championship. And so that way we're going to get lots of data here from the longest hitters in the world. So let's get started with Connor. Now, what 3D force plates do is, and they measure the kinetic sequence, and they have numbers that represent the force you produce in three different forces. Well, I guess we'll just call them three different forces. We have what's called lateral force, which is the force you apply that basically moves you parallel to the ground, whether you are moving towards the target or away from the target. That would be considered lateral force. Vertical torque, which is a measurement of your rotational force. We all know that golf is a rotational sport, just much like throwing any ball or baseball, hitting the ball, throwing the ball. You're rotating your body, and the more efficiently and the faster you do that, the further the ball's going to go. And the last force we're going to be measuring and talking about is vertical force, which is essentially the simplest way to describe that is jumping. You're basically applying force into the ground, and that moves your body vertically or moves the club vertically. The correct sequence is lateral force first, vertical torque second, and vertical force third. So let's get into it with Connor here. If you look at this screen, you're going to see a black line, squiggly line, a yellow squiggly line, and a orange/red squiggly line on the bottom. The numbers just to the right of those lines on the right side of the screen will show the corresponding colors with the numbers, show how much force is being put into the ground. And for 2 of the 3 forces, that measurement is in percentage of body weight. And vertical torque is measured in newtons of mass, which honestly, that's too sciencey for me. Hopefully I'll be able to figure out what that means later. I have some references when it comes to that, and we'll talk about that later. The upper right-hand portion of the screen, you'll see some arrows and you'll see some numbers, just underneath. You can see like a digital representation of the force plates there, and you can see some arrows, and then on the lower left of those force plates, you're going to see some numbers. What those numbers represent is the percentage of body weight. That doesn't mean it's his total body weight. Say if he's 200 pounds and it says 100%, that's all 200 pounds. It could be less than that, depending upon how he's applying the force. And then obviously on the upper left, you're going to see the video of his swing. So let's go ahead and get started here. So the way Connor swings is he has a very interesting way to start or trigger a swing. He will step back with his rear foot, step backwards. You'll see that right there. And then he steps backwards with his, when I say backwards, I mean away from the target, steps away from the target with his lead foot. So he starts with the ball basically underneath his left ear, and then by the time he's done that, it's underneath his left shoulder, which is where you like it to be when you're hitting a driver. So we're going to be looking at the black line on the bottom, and then the kind of the middle upper right, you can see the number representing what that black line is, which is lateral force. So as you can see, he's already producing lateral force. Now that number is a positive number, which means he's pushing towards the target, believe it or not. Even though that club is moving backwards, he's pushing towards the target with his body. So as that club moves back to about this point here, you can see, if you look in the upper right, you can see the numbers say 94 and 6. So that 94 in red, that's on his right side, on his right foot, and you can see both the arrows are over there. And that blue is 6%. So he's basically moved almost 100% of his, the weight to his right side there. But while doing that, he's actually pushing to his left. How does that make sense? Well, if you think, how do you rotate? That's how you rotate. You kind of have to push in the opposite direction of where you want your body to go. So like if you're doing a push-up, you're pushing away from you want your body to go up, you have to push down. So so that's what's happening there. And his peak lateral force is 12% of his body weight. That happens right about here. Now, as a reference, PGA Tour players are usually about 20% of their body weight at this point. So you think, wow, how does this long driver, why doesn't he produce more force than a PGA Tour player? Well, they kind of have different styles of swings. A lot of PGA Tour players, and you'll see this, and hopefully, maybe we can get a PGA Tour player on a force plate at one point, and I can demonstrate this better. But you'll see that a PGA Tour player will have a lot more, I guess, what you call slide towards the target on his downswing. While most long drivers, I would say about 90% of them, you're not really going to see a whole lot of sliding towards the target. So what they do is they produce this lateral force really early in the backswing. Essentially, right at the takeaway, they start pushing towards the target, and that helps them rotate away from the ball. And you're going to see that trail leg is well inside his trail foot, like the knees inside of his trail foot, and then his hip is well inside that as well. And what that does is that helps with sequencing a little bit later in the downswing. You'll see a lot of amateur players at this point, that trail knee is going to be outside their trail foot, and you really don't want that. I don't know if I've ever seen one PGA Tour player who gets his trail knee outside of his trail foot at this point in the backswing. It can start there, but it needs to be traveling target ways. You're still loading onto your right side, but that trail knee and hip are basically going towards the target. So here he is at 12% of his lateral force. And the next thing in the sequence is called vertical torque, and that happens right here. Now, the number for vertical torque is 210. A good player's vertical torque average is about 85. So he's more than double, almost triple the amount of vertical torque that a normal good player, I guess maybe you'd call him a scratch golfer, would be producing at this point. So it kind of makes sense that long drive people can rotate really fast. So this vertical torque, which represents rotation, is going to be a really high number. This is an insanely high number, as a matter of fact. So you can see how early it happens too. He's essentially just finishing his backswing, and he's already rotating really hard towards the ball. Okay? He's peaking his rotation towards the ball at this point. The next metric is vertical force. Now, he's at 217% of his body weight here. Average on the PGA Tour can be anywhere between like 160 to 200. So we'll say like 185, 190 or something like that. So he's about 10% to 20% more than what a PGA Tour player would be at this point, which, is a lot. But the really important thing to notice here is look at where his club head is. It's still on the target side of his body. His left arm is parallel to the ground, and that club head is still, on the target side of his body. A PGA Tour player at this point, the club head would be about there, which is a great spot to be. Most amateurs at this point, at peak vertical force, the club head's going to be way down here. And at that point, it's just way too late for that force to actually get to the club head. So being here with this peak vertical force, he's got a lot of time for that force to be applied through his body and into the hands, and then applying that, obviously down the shaft and into the club head. And then when it hits the ball, it's going to be moving very quickly. So let's go ahead and take him down a few more frames here. I just want to point out how much lag he has. Part of that is because he's kind of, the club is behind him at an angle, so that makes the lag look a bit more than it actually is, but it's still very extreme. At this point, most people will be about 90 degrees between the forearm and the shaft, and he's probably like about 120 or something like that. So what that means is within the next few hundredths of a second, if he's doing it right, all that lag goes away at impact. And you can see is basically the shaft and arm essentially forming a straight line there. It's a little blurry, but I think you can get the idea of it. So within a few hundredths of a second, he went from 120 to 140 degrees of angle to 0 degrees of angle. And that is a huge power producer. So he does it in multiple ways. He does his forces early. He creates a lot of vertical torque, a decent amount of vertical force, and a lot of lag that gets released at the ball. So let's go ahead. Oh, another thing that I want you to point out, if you want to look at the numbers in the upper right-hand corner, it says 100 is on his left foot and 0 under his, 100 is under his right foot and 0 under his left foot. What that doesn't mean he's leaning back. What that means is he's pushed so hard off that front foot that it's now airborne. And the next few frames, you're going to see what I mean here. Watch this. Like that ball, that foot just flies out to the left and lands about a foot and a half left of where he started. A nice wraparound finish there. About 150 something miles an hour, 220 miles an hour ball speed. Connor Sterritt is a very powerful golfer. And thank you. This is the first post of many, I hope. And hopefully this helps you out a little bit. And hopefully I'll get a little bit better at talking and make it a little bit more brief. So again, thank you very much. This is Power Golf, Power Fitness. Have a good day.